Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Anjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Anjana Yamunatiya Vanachai Yamunatiya Vanachai Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Anjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Anjana Yamunatiya Vanachai Yamunatiya Vanachai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Radhe. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Thank you very much. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Everyone together. Narayanam namaskritya nam chaiva narotanam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiyayet nastapaye shabadeshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati utama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki Om Gyantimiyandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshun Militanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pachayine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashata Deshatayine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasani Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome for this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak and just hopefully share what the acharyas have passed down for countless generations. And before we start, I just want to take a moment to just, we can practice a bit of gratitude. I'm taking Prabhupada Priya Prabhu's workshop right now, and this week we're focusing on gratitude. So yeah, let's just take a moment and just appreciate how we're sitting in one of the most beautiful temples that we have, perhaps in the world, with some of the most amazing deities, and surrounded by some very advanced devotees, actually. Pure devotees we have in this community. Their only aim in life is just bhakti. That's it. Everything else is just to facilitate their devotional service. So let's never take it for granted, and let's always show love and respect to everyone. So today we're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 14, the Great Forest of Enjoyment. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Just before we begin, what do you think about when you think of a forest? Just throw in some words out. What do you think about? Wild animals. Lots of trees and foliage. Dark. What else? Waterfalls, sometimes. Yeah. Anything else? Dreams. Whirlwind of lust covering the soul. I mean, anything else? Yogi meditating under a banyan tree. Wow, we have some very elevated answers here. But my point is, when we think about a forest, we might have some positive thoughts, like, oh, it's peaceful, it's sattvic, there's trees, you can breathe nicely. But then if you think about it, there's also going to be some like challenges that come in. It's like, okay, but there's like mosquitoes, and like I might get lost, and like there's like wild animals, and things like that. How am I going to get food? So this is the material world, actually, and that's why a forest is a great allegory, because forest has both sukha and dukkha, both happiness and distress. Hare Krishna. And this is the material world. And we saw an elevated soul is not disturbed by either. It doesn't actually matter. And Jad Bharat is a perfect example of this, because we saw that he was, when he got kidnapped by all of those dacoits, and he was brought to the feet of Kali, goddess Kali. At first, they gave him sukha. At first, they gave him enjoyment. They were dressing him really nicely. They were feeding him like sumptuous prasadam. They were cleaning him up. They were treating him really nice. But he didn't care. He was like, whatever. And then when they were going to offer him to sacrifice to the goddess and slit his throat and kill him, still, he was like, whatever. He was like indifferent. So he was the same in happiness and stress. And the same thing is in the material world, we have both honor and dishonor. I don't know the Sanskrit word for those. But, we get in a day, one day we might get appreciated. Oh, wow, Prabhu, you're doing such good service. Thank you so much. And then the next day you might be like, wow, I can't believe you just did that. You didn't, you know what I mean? We all go through honor and dishonor. We never know what you're going to get. And Jad Bharat went through that too, because he was carrying the palanquin of the king Rahugana, and the king was insulting him and degrading him and treating him like he's nothing. Did it bother him? No, he wasn't attached. And then once the king realized that this is like a liberated soul, like a self-realized soul, he started treating him with all respect. He paid full obeisances and gave him prayers, and still it didn't mean anything to him, because he's not attached to the body. He doesn't identify with the body. These pleasures and pains have to do with the body and the mind. This mind, this intelligence that we have is just given to us as a gift. It's not actually who we are. So anyways, just a little prelude. We have a lot of verses to go through, so we'll try to, maybe we'll do 3 each. We'll start with text 20.
Sukadev Goswami continued, speaking to Maharaj Pariksit, "My dear king, sleep is exactly like a python. Those who wander in the forests of material life are always devoured by the python of sleep. Being bitten by this python, they always remain in the darkness of ignorance. They are like dead bodies thrown in a distant forest. Thus the conditioned souls cannot understand what is going on in life."
Yeah, this is a really interesting analogy, that sleep is like a python that goes and swallows you. You ever just feel like sleep is just coming to like swallow you? Feel completely, just your whole body is like tired. It's like coming to like swallow you, and you're just trying to like stay out of it. You're like, don't swallow me, python. So this is one of the numerous challenges that we have in the material world. Who here is kind of tired right now? It's normal. And who here has some kind of pain going on right now? Yeah, exactly. This is the material world. Let's keep going.
In the forests of the material world, the conditioned soul is sometimes bitten by the envious enemies, which are compared to serpents and other creatures. Through the tricks of the enemy, the conditioned soul falls from his prestigious position. Being anxious, he cannot even sleep properly. He thus becomes more and more unhappy, and he gradually loses intelligence and consciousness. In that state, he becomes almost perpetually like a blind man who has fallen into a dark well of ignorance. The conditioned soul is sometimes attracted to the little happiness derived from sense gratification. Thus, he has illicit sex or steals another's property. At such a time, he may be arrested by the government or chastised by the woman's husband or protector. This simply for a little material satisfaction. He falls into the hellish condition and is put into jail for rape, kidnapping, theft, and so forth.
That's heavy. Dayayato vishayan pumsa sangaste shapujayate sangasanjayate kama kama kodo vijayate. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, And from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. And then it goes to Krodha bhavati samoha, samohat smriti vibhamaha, smriti bhamshad buddhinasho, buddhinashad panashati. From anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. So this is how it happens, that somebody does something atrocious, like the things that are mentioned in this here, like rape or kidnapping or theft or these things. A lot of times, these people, when they end up, in court or in jail, they're just like, I don't even know really what happened. They're just like, it's like, that wasn't me, And Krishna explains it really nicely in the Bhagavad Gita how it happens. I have a picture on here to show. Just the next one. Oh, you closed it? Okay. Yeah, this is it here. First, it starts off with association with sense objects or contemplation of the sense object. So, for example, typical cases between people of the different gender, like you contemplate, like beautiful woman, and you're just contemplating, and eventually you develop attachment. You start to feel like, you know what, I have to do whatever it takes to get this desire that I want. And then the attachment creates strong desire, and the desire leads to anger when we can't fulfill it, or when fulfilling the desire doesn't actually, we don't actually feel satisfied. So we always want more. And then anger comes out of frustration when it's like you don't feel like you got what you want. Then what happens when we're angry? What happens when you get really angry? I'm sure we've all been pretty angry before. What happens? You say things you regret, yeah? Forgetful. You forget. Yeah. It's interesting. We always talk about let's be here now, let's be in the moment. But anger kind of does that, but in like a negative way. It's like you kind of just forget all of the values or your principles, and you're just like, I'm just angry at you. And it's kind of like drinking poison, hoping that the other person suffers from it. But actually, we just get suffering. So yeah, anger, it clouds our judgment. We can't think straight about what's right and wrong. And then it clouds our memory, like Mother Kunti said, our reasoning, our intellect. And then it results in a loss of intelligence. So you become kind of stupid, become kind of dumb. And then what happens? Well, in the Gita, Krishna says that you fall down into the material pool. Here it says it ruins your life, which is basically the same thing. It ruins your spiritual life. So this is why it's important that we can learn how to control the mind and to always focus on use our senses in the service of the Lord. Or else you never know what can happen. It's just one thing after another. It starts off small. Oh, it doesn't hurt for me to just, the thought comes of this person or of this desire that I know is not good for me. And it doesn't hurt for me to just kind of contemplate it, just kind of think about it. But no, it easily can go to the next step where you get attachment for it. And then you're like, I gotta have it. I don't have a choice. And then it goes one thing after another. So we have to be careful. And the reason why, Jad Bharat is going through all of these things is not just to make us depressed that, we're in hell or we're in a terrible place. But the idea that it goes to is we have to understand that the dangers of the material world in order to understand the importance of Krishna consciousness and the importance of going back to Godhead, especially at the beginning. When you're at an elevated stage, you're like, okay, I can be anywhere in the world as long as I serve Krishna. But especially at the beginning stages, it's important to understand the dangers that we're facing. Okay, next verse. Sorry for talking too much.
Okay. Text 23. Learned scholars and transcendentalists therefore condemn the materialistic path of fruitive activity because it is the original source and breeding ground of material miseries, both in this life and in the next. Stealing, text 24, stealing or cheating another person out of his money, The conditioned soul, somehow or other, keeps it in his possession and escapes punishment. Then another man named Devadatta cheats him and takes the money away. Similarly, another man named Vishnumitra steals the money from Devadatta and takes it away. In any case, the money does not stay in one place. It passes from one hand to another. Ultimately, no one can enjoy the money, and it remains the property of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 25, being unable to protect himself from the threefold miseries of material existence, the conditioned soul becomes very morose and lives a life of lamentation. These threefold miseries are miseries suffered by mental calamity at the hands of the demigods, such as freezing wind and scorching heat, miseries offered by other living entities, and miseries arising from the mind and body themselves.
What are these called in Sanskrit? Different. Yeah. Adi Atmika, Adi Baunika, Adi Devika. So the miseries of our own body and mind, the miseries caused by other living entities, and the miseries caused by the environment or the demigods. Next.
As far as transactions with money are concerned, if one person cheats another by a farthing or less, they become enemies. In this materialistic life, there are many difficulties, as I have mentioned, and all of these are insurmountable. In addition, there are difficulties arising from so-called happiness, distress, attachment, hate, fear, false prestige, illusion, madness, lamentation, bewilderment, greed, envy, enmity, lust, insult, hunger, thirst, tribulation, disease, birth, old age, and death. All these combine together to give the materialistic conditioned soul nothing but misery.
Wow, that's a lot of challenges. Wow, eh? We have it rough. What if everyone deals with so many challenges? Why are only very few people eager to get out of this forest of suffering? Any ideas why is only a few? Why is it that only a few people are actually eager to get out of the forest if it's so difficult? Sorry? Yeah, most people don't understand because of illusion. They think that's all that there is. There's nothing but the forest. Can imagine if you've been lost your whole life. Let's say you were born in the forest and you never left the forest. How do I know there's not anything but the forest? It's so big and like confusing, and everybody around me doesn't know that there's anything more than the forest. That's why it's so important that we go out there and we meet all the people stuck in the forest and we tell them, hey, by the way, there's a world outside the forest and it's actually eternal and it's full of bliss, full of knowledge, and you can go there. Come with me. Let's go. And yeah, next verse, please.
Sometimes the conditioned soul is attracted by illusion personified, his wife or girlfriend, and becomes eager to be embraced by a woman. Thus he loses intelligence as well as knowledge of life's goal. At that time, he no longer attempting spiritual cultivation. He becomes overly attached to his wife and girlfriend, and tries to provide her with a suitable apartment. Again, he becomes very busy under the shelter of that home and is captivated by the talks, glances, and activities of his wife and children. In this way, he loses his Krishna consciousness and throws himself into the dense darkness of the material existence.
Giving me 20 of these verses to go through is hard, because every one of them we could go on. You could go on forever, but anyways, we'll do 3 each. Yeah.
The personal weapon used by Lord Krishna, the disc, is called the Hari Chakra. The disc of Hari, this chakra is the wheel of time. It expands from the beginning of the atoms up to the time of Lord Rama's death. And it controls all activities. It is always revolving in spending the lives of the living entities, from Lord Brahma down to an insignificant blade of grass. Thus one changes from infancy to childhood to youth and maturity. Thus one approaches the end of life. It is impossible to check this wheel of time. This wheel is very exacting because it is the personal weapon of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Excuse me. Sometimes the conditioned soul, fearing the approach of death, wants to worship someone who can save him from imminent danger. Yet he does not care for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose weapon is the indefatigable time factor. The conditioned soul instead takes shelter of a man-made god described in unauthorized scriptures. Such gods are like buzzards, vultures, herons, and crows. Vedic scriptures do not refer to them. Imminent death is like the attack of a lion. Neither vultures, buzzards, crows, nor herons can save one from such attack. One who takes shelter of unauthorized man-made gods cannot be saved from the clutches of death. The pseudo-swamis, yogis, and incarnations who do not believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead are known as Pashandis. They themselves are fallen and cheated because they do not know the real path of spiritual advancement, and whoever goes to them is certainly cheated in his turn. When one is thus cheated, he sometimes takes shelter of the real followers of Vedic principles, or Brahmanas, or those in Krishna consciousness, who teach everyone how to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to the Vedic rituals. However, being unable to stick to these principles, these rascals again fall down and take shelter among Shudras, who are very expert in making arrangement for sex indulgement. Sex is very prominent among animals like monkeys, and people who are enlivened by sex may be called descendants of monkeys.
In this way, the descendants of the monkeys intermingle with each other and are generally known as Shudras. Without hesitating, they live and move freely, not knowing the goal of life. They are captivated simply by seeing the faces of one another, which remind them of sense gratification. They are always engaged in material activities known as gramya karma, and they work hard for material benefit. Thus, they forget completely that one day their small lifespans will be finished and they will be degraded in the evolutionary cycle. 32. Just as a monkey jumps from one tree to another, the conditioned soul jumps from one body to another. As the monkey is ultimately captured by the hunter and is unable to get out of captivity, the conditioned soul, being captivated by momentary sex pleasure, becomes attached to different types of bodies and is engaged in family life. Family life affords the conditioned soul a festival of momentary sex pleasure, and thus he is completely unable to get out of the material clutches.
What is festival of momentary sex pleasure? That's kind of the basis, the kind of drive for most people in life overall. It's like you hit puberty, and then your body starts to want sex. You want to mate, you want to reproduce. And so as a boy, you're thinking, okay, I need to go to school for so many years and get a good job so I can have a house, so I can have a wife, so that we can enjoy together. But what you don't expect is you just end up working like an ass, and you don't even really have time for anything, and your whole life passes by, and you're like, what happened? What did I just do? And you end up just like an old bitter man. Next.
In this material world, when the conditioned soul forgets his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and does not care for Krishna consciousness, he simply engages in different types of mischievous, sinful activities. He is then subjected to the threefold miseries, and out of fear of the elephant of death, he falls into the darkness found in a mountain cave. The conditioned soul suffers many miserable bodily conditions, such as being affected by severe cold and strong winds. He also suffers due to the activities of other living beings, and due to natural disturbances. When he is unable to counteract them and has to remain in a miserable condition, he naturally becomes very morose because he wants to enjoy material facilities.
35. Sometimes conditioned souls exchange money, but in due course of time, enmity arises because of cheating. Although there may be a tiny profit, the conditioned souls cease to be friends and become enemies. 36. Sometimes, having no money, the conditioned soul does not get sufficient accommodations. Sometimes he doesn't even have a place to sit, nor does he have the other necessities. In other words, he falls into scarcity, and at that time, when he is unable to secure the necessities by fair means, he decides to seize the property of others unfairly. When he cannot get the things he wants, he simply receives insults from others and thus becomes very morose.
Thirty-seven. Although people may be enemies, in order to fulfill their desires again and again, they sometimes get married. Unfortunately, these marriages do not last very long, and the people involved are separated again by divorce or other means.
So actually, kind of what my parents did actually. They were like always fighting. They were like not doing well at all, and they're like, maybe if we get married, it'll go better. So needless to say, when I was 5, they got divorced, and but the lust was too strong. You know, they couldn't let go of each other, and I've experienced that too. Actually, when you're in a relationship out of lust, out of strong, and then the attachment is so strong. It's called like codependent relationship. It literally feels like you can't live without the other person. It's really like, it's actually like a scary thing. And that's why some people, like, let's say their spouse leaves them, what do? They kill themselves. It's actually like pretty common. Or they kill the other. It's like the attachment that we have is unbelievable. So we have to break the knot. That's what's keeping us here in the material world, actually, especially sex desire. Sex desire is the strongest force that is keeping us stuck here in this endless cycle of birth and death. So we have to overcome it. Next one, please. 38. I think you're reading. Two more, please.
Text 38. Path of this material world is full of material miseries, and various troubles disturb the conditioned souls. Sometimes he loses, and sometimes he gains. In either case, the path is full of danger. Sometimes the conditioned soul is separated from his father by death or other circumstances. Leaving him aside, he gradually becomes attached to others, such as his children. In this way, the conditioned soul is sometimes illusioned and afraid. Sometimes he cries loudly out of fear. Sometimes he is happy maintaining his family. Sometimes he is overjoyed and sings melodiously. In this way, he becomes entangled and forgets his separation from the Supreme Personality of Godhead since time immemorial. Thus he traverses the dangerous path of material existence. And on this path, he is not at all happy. Those who are self-realized simply take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in order to get out of this dangerous material existence without accepting the devotional path. One cannot get out of the clutches of material existence. conclusion is that no one can be happy in material life. One must take to Krishna.
I'll read the last 3 verses there. Saintly persons who are friends to all living entities have a peaceful consciousness. There we go. Now we're getting some positive. We're getting okay, what's the solution? So saintly persons who are friends to all living entities have a peaceful consciousness. They have controlled their senses and minds, and they easily attain the path of liberation, the path back to Godhead. Being unfortunate and attached to the miserable material conditions, a materialistic person cannot associate with them. There were many great saintly kings who were very expert in performing sacrificial rituals and very competent in conquering other kingdoms. Yet despite their power, they could not attain to the loving service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is because those great kings who could not even conquer the false consciousness of I am this body, and this is my property, thus they simply created enmity with rival kings, fought with them, and died without having discharged life's real mission. When the conditioned soul accepts the shelter of the creeper of fruitive activity, he may be elevated by his pious activities to higher planetary systems and thus gain liberation from hellish conditions. But unfortunately, he cannot remain there. After reaping the results of his pious activities, he has to return to the lower planetary systems. This way, he perpetually goes up and comes down. Okay, so we'll focus on 38. We'll just skip the Sanskrit, go right into the verse. The path of this material world is full of material miseries, and various troubles disturb the conditioned souls. Sometimes he loses and sometimes he gains. In either case, the path is full of danger. Sometimes the conditioned soul is separated from his father by death or other circumstances. Leaving him aside, he gradually becomes attached to others, such as his children. In this way, the conditioned soul is sometimes illusioned and afraid. Sometimes he cries loudly out of fear. Sometimes he is happy maintaining his family, and sometimes he is overjoyed and sings melodiously. In this way, he becomes entangled and forgets his separation from the Supreme Personality of Godhead since time immemorial. Thus, he traverses the dangerous path of material existence, and on this path, he is not at all happy. Those who are self-realized simply take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in order to get out of this dangerous material existence. Without accepting the devotional path, one cannot get out of the clutches of material existence. The conclusion is that no one can be happy in material life. One must take to Krishna consciousness. Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. By thoroughly analyzing the materialistic way of life, any sane man can understand that there is not the least happiness in this world. However, due to continuing on the path of danger from time immemorial and not associating with saintly persons, the conditioned soul under illusion wants to enjoy this material world. Material energy sometimes gives him a chance at so-called happiness, but the conditioned soul is perpetually being punished by material nature. It is therefore said, Dandaya janir, dandajayir hajayena nati de chubaya. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 2118. Materialistic life means continuous unhappiness, but sometimes we accept happiness as it appears between the gaps. Sometimes a condemned person is submerged in water and hauled out. Actually, all of this is meant for punishment, but he feels a little comfort when he is taken out of the water. This is the situation with the conditioned soul. All the Shastras therefore advise that one associate with devotees and saintly people. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastrikaya, Lava Mata Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhihaya. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 2254. Even by little association with devotees, the conditioned soul can get out of this miserable material condition. This Krishna consciousness movement is therefore trying to give everyone a chance to associate with saintly people. Therefore, all the members of this Krishna consciousness society must themselves be perfect sadhus in order to give a chance to fallen conditioned souls. This is the best humanitarian work. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So what is the escape? What's the escape rope or the helicopter that comes and saves you from the forest? What is it? Yes, Sadhu Sangha, association of devotees. That's the only reason that we're here now, actually. And so it's important that we become sadhus, because then we can be the escape for somebody else. And what does it mean to be a sadhu? Any idea what's a sadhu? Knife. Yeah. You want to give her the microphone, please? Yeah.
Haribol. The word sadhu actually means knife. That means that they can cut through our material illusion, material desires, actually become purified. That's why we hanker for the association of the sadhus, because they actually help relieve us, which these material desires are just burdens. That's all they are.
Thank you very
Distractions.
much. Yeah. Any other thoughts on what is a sadhu? Any, yeah, go ahead. Anything? Any verse that comes to mind? Yes? What is it? From,
Third canto, I believe.
yeah.
I think it's from Kapila Dev's teachings, but it's like Natikshava Karunaka, Duradam Sarva Dehinam. The translation?
No, but I could have just said it, but this was beautiful because this was sadhu sangha. Like together, you came up with it on your own, the whole verse there, and just shows how important it is that we work together. So titik shava kaunika suida sarvadehinam ajata shashtava shanta sadava sadhu bhushanaha. The symptoms of a sadhu are that he is tolerant, merciful, and friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies, he is peaceful, he abides by the scriptures, and all his characteristics are sublime. It's also mentioned, Krishna also mentions in the Gita that a sadhu ultimately, or I guess he talks about the Mahatma. I was thinking of the Mahatma as a devotee, but we can understand a real sadhu is a devotee, because in order to have these qualities, we need the mercy of the Lord, and we need to be able to engage all of our senses in the service of the Lord. Or if we just try to artificially live by these qualities, it's pretty fragile. It's pretty fragile. Somebody might offend you, or you might have to go spend the time with a certain family member that gets under your skin. But if you're Krishna conscious, you can see everybody as Krishna's children, and you develop the qualities of a demigod through devotional service. So continues in the next verse. Thank you, sadhu. Mai ananyena bhavena bhaktim kurvanti yedidam matrite tyakta karmanas tyaktva tyakta svajana bandhavaha. Such a sadhu, there it is. Such a sadhu engages in staunch devotional service to the Lord without deviation. For the sake of the Lord, he renounces all other connections, such as family relationships and family acquaintances within the world. Wow. Does that mean we should just be like, okay, bye dad, bye mom, see you never? What does it mean? Any thoughts?
Means that we're looking at them as Krishnas, and that therefore we have some service to do. You know, we can serve these devotees as in the role of a father or a mother or a brother or sister. But we're not looking at it as this is mine, and therefore it's for us to enjoy. Thinking about serving in a way that Krishna appreciates.
Yeah, and we see them as children of God that we're meant to serve, but we don't necessarily see them as like a guru, somebody that we take advice from, like that. I should probably stop here. You want to say something, Prabhupada? Yeah. Somebody give her a mic, please.
Just answering that question, is that the first line is Maya Ananya Bhavena. So that means that one's bhava, one's feeling or emotions goes to Krishna. Like the Lord's speaking, so he's saying to me, my Ananya and nothing else. Not another thing. That it goes to Krishna, not another thing. So that's, yeah. So the relationship between family and all that is that when we love Krishna, when our feeling actually goes to Krishna, when we give our hearts to Krishna, then it doesn't just stop at Krishna, but it overflows to all Krishna's parts and parcels. But then it just, everything needs to be aligned. So we try to align, our friends and family members with Krishna to the extent that they can be aligned. Not that we don't care about them, but if they're antagonistic, then we have to keep a little distance. But if we can somehow or other bring them into, alignment with Krishna, then that's all good. Then we can have very open, active, dynamic, loving relationships with all our friends and family.
Thank you. Yeah, it's not that we stop caring about them. Actually, we develop more care. We develop more love for them. This is a process of Krishna consciousness. Your love inside of you for the Supreme and all his children grows. But now we understand what's the best thing I can give them. What's the best service I can give them is to help them come to Krishna in whichever way they're ready for. It might just be prasadam for now. Maybe they like the chanting, whatever. But because we care about them, we don't want to just feed into their materialistic perception of life that just keeps them in the endless ups and downs, sukha dukkha, sukha dukkha, sukha dukkha, pleasure, pain, suffering, birth, death, old age. No, I care about you, so I want to help you come back to the Lord and never have to suffer again. Do we have any other thoughts, questions, comments, or anything?
I was appreciating this point, and it was reminding me of, because everybody, we're all, like it said in one of the translations, since time immemorial, we've been conditioned by many different activities. And I was just thinking about the importance of meeting those friends and family members where they're at in their personal journey, because I think sometimes we can become a little overzealous in our sharing, and they're not ready for that, and then it can actually push them maybe further away from Krishna. So having that ability to share Krishna consciousness with those that are close to us, but really anybody, I guess, right? That we meeting them where they're at, giving them the chance to go through what they need to go through to gradually progress and come closer to Krishna also. The fine balance.
Yeah. I'm laughing because I remember when I first joined the temple in Toronto, I left home and I was away for 4 months, 4.5 months, and then I came back for Christmas, and I'm with, my immediate close family for Christmas. And I just brought them all malas. I brought them all Prabhupada's books. And I was just like, guys, I got to tell you about this mantra. And they were looking at me like I was crazy, It was too much. It was and yeah, I don't think they read the books or chanted or anything like that. And at one point, my dad too, I was spending a weekend with him at the cottage, and I'm because he's French, I'm packing a bunch of French Prabhupada's books, and I'm like, hey dad, I'm bringing I have books in French, and he's just like, I don't care. He literally and it oh, my heart sunk, and he told me, he basically told me show by example. He basically told me that. He's I want to see that this actually makes you really happy, that you're actually a lot happier, and then I'll be interested. But at the time I was still having my struggles and my doubts, and I would share that with him. So he wasn't that inspired. So ultimately, that's the best way that we can, that people will come. If they look at you, they're like, whoa, what is he doing? What is she doing? But if we're just complaining and we're having the similar kind of negative characteristics that quote unquote normal people have, then how inspiring are we? You have something?
I was thinking when we're in that overzealous spot that we're actually not sharing Krishna, we're actually sharing us. We actually are wanting to be the center. Here, look what I'm doing, or you should do what I'm doing. This is a Kanishta platform. Is you have your relationship with Krishna, and that's the only thing that's there. That you don't see the other relationships that other people have with Krishna. So they said that in the Kanishta platform, you actually do more damage sometimes preaching than you do good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's harder to bring them back now that I kind of pushed them away a little bit. I think.
By the way, I'm not trying to give you a hard time. It's completely like natural. That's part of the process. Is that a Kanishta, you and your relationship with Krishna, everybody should have that relationship. Oh yeah, you should know God like this. You should know him like this. He's only in your temple. But once we, with the sincerity of trying to come to share Krishna helps us, right? He helps us make improvement and start to understand how to see others. And so it is sweet, that we're trying to say, hey, I found this thing, I found this happiness, and I want to share it with you. We might not be able to see how they'll take it and how to do it, but at least we're trying. So it is nice in some degree.
Yeah,
but we shouldn't stay there. That's the point.
Yeah, over time, spending time with them and stuff, I started to realize the proper approach. The proper approach is you just go and you be a sadhu with them. You just see like, hey, is there any service I can do? Can I sweep the floor? Can I do the dishes? How are you doing? How's your life? And then if they start asking questions, then you can answer like that. But you don't try to like, what do they call it? Proselytize, Proselytize, yeah. Because it's like, it's intrusive.
Part of the huge success of Kalachandji's restaurant is we don't proselytize to the guests. Now, if the guests come up to us, would you tell me a little more about this? And sometimes the guests will go, they'll take off their shoes in the shoe room, and they'll come into the temple, or they'll put the shoes right by the door, and then they'll come in. And they're walking around and staring at everything. And, you can go up and say, hi, is this your first time here? Or, yeah, I've been here before, but no one's ever really talked to me about this place. And, so that's part of the magic Kalachandji's restaurant, is that it's there and people are coming forward. They want to know more.
Yeah,
that's really amazing.
That's true. And we can't underestimate the power of prasadam as well. That it's very like purifying and brings people closer to Krishna. That's kind of how I started. I would just go to the Govinda's restaurant in Ottawa, and I would take prasad, and I would just hang out with the devotee there. And he wasn't like really trying to preach to me. He was just like, talking to me like a friend, like just hanging out and giving me like the best food that I ever had in my life. And I was just like, I love this place. Let me keep coming. And here I am now. So sometimes we think too much like we're the doer, I have to make them, I'm going to make them a devotee. But Krishna's in their heart. Krishna's guiding them. They have a certain journey. They have certain things they need to experience. And already they're coming to the restaurant. They're getting closer and closer. And it's gonna happen in due time. Krishna says everyone is on the path towards him in all respects. So, any other thoughts? Yes, Mother Tammy.
I just wanted to bring up a couple of points that were said that were really, really impressive to me was meet them where they're at. That's a very good phrase. I like that a lot, and I'm going to try to remember that. And then what you were saying about what you're basically saying is lead by example. And if we're not showing improvement in our own lives, they're not going to listen to us at all, let alone jump on board with us. You know, so I think it's really important, like you say, to try to show that we are making progress in our lives through Krishna consciousness. And then when they come to the restaurant, that's, you know, one of the things they do is they walk down the hall, which has all the art and the books and everything. And if Krishna brought them there for a reason, then through their own independent study, they're going to be curious, and they're going to ask questions, and they're going to want to know what's going on here, you know, besides just food. So I think those were all really, really good points. Thank you.
Very much. Yeah, I think that sums it up. Anything else? We're good? Okay. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo.
Prabhu Nityananda, Shri started off.